everyone, it's Nadia from YARNutopia. Today we are making this beautiful Autumn Nights cardigan. This is so beautiful. So much chunky yarn went into making this. It's super heavy, super warm, great for the winter months or the fall coming at the end of summer. So you have some time to make this for winter. But I'll get into the supplies we need. I'll answer some frequently asked questions about sizing, and then we'll get into making this beautiful piece. This is so fashionable. So supplies, you're going to need, let me reach over here and get this crochet hook. It is a 16mm crochet hook. This is a Q size hook. I got this at Michael's craft store, so you can see this is the size hook I'm using. You can use a 15mm or even go up to an 18mm. I'm not sure if a 20mm would work with this type of yarn, but if you want to try it out, you totally can. Just a really big lazy hook. You can use a bigger crochet hook. You're also going to need a scissor and a yarn needle to cut your yarn and sew things together and sew in your ends. We are going to be making these two panels. I can flip this around so you can see. We're making this panel and then this panel, and we're sewing it up in the center right here. Okay, so we're making two panels, sewing them up in the back, and then we're making sleeves separately and sewing those onto, you can see my screen here, but we're sewing those onto the bodice. So that's how this is going to look. So I hope that makes sense. Now for sizing, let me measure this, because this is going to be like a medium size. This will fit me. I'm more of a medium sized person. So let's see here. The length from the neck all the way down to the bottom here, stretch this down, is in inches. It's 36 inches, and in centimeters that's 92 centimeters. Okay, so that's the length from top to bottom. Now in this video tutorial, I tell you, you actually have to measure, this will reach down to my knees, and you can see that in the photos, but this will measure from your knee up to your shoulder and then back down to your knee, because we're making one long rectangular panel. So, and I share that in the video tutorial a little later in this tutorial. So you can do as many stitches as you want. As for the sleeve, my sleeve ends up being, with the cuff, in inches, 20 inches. Okay, from shoulder seam to the bottom, which 20 inches is 50 centimeters. Okay, so that's how long my sleeve is. But like I said, you can do as many stitches as you need to for the length that you want. And as for the amount of rows, we go sideways, back and forth rows this way, so you can add more or less to make it as big or small as you need to. So that's mostly the questions I get about sizing. And in the written pattern, I do share information about sizing, and in the notes section I'll give it some information too about sizing, making this a little bigger or smaller depending on what size you want to make it. But this is a size like medium, and I just shared with you the measurements, so hopefully you can follow along with this and make this beautiful cardigan. I'm so excited to wear it. Big thank you to Red Heart Yarns. I didn't even tell you what yarn I'm using. I'm using Red Heart. I just got too excited. I'm so sorry. Red Heart Grande yarn. Sorry that I didn't even mention that yet. The amount of yarn, so I'm using four colors. Here, let me grab them. Okay, so the main color I'm using is called Oatmeal. There we go. So Oatmeal is this main color here. I used 10 balls of this yarn. Okay, these balls are 46 yards each, so I used 10 balls of my main color. And then the second color is called Chianti. Okay, it's like a wine color. And again, these are 46 yard balls. I used 3 of the Chianti. And for the Apricot, this is called Apricot, right here, I used 3 balls of Apricot. And this teal color here I used 2 balls of this, so just 2 of the teal. But so that in total is 18 balls of yarn that I used total. And for yardage, I used 828 yards of yarn total completely through this whole project. So if you don't want to use the same exact yarn, this is a size 7 jumbo yarn. You could use a size 5 bulky yarn, and that'd be totally fine. So make sure to use any chunky yarn that you'd like, very similar to this, for this project. But like I said, 828 yards. All of this information will be in the notes section and the materials section of the blog YARNutopia.com that is linked in the description of this video, so you can see where to get this yarn at Red Heart Yarns, or at redheart.com, on Red Heart Yarns website, and also where to get the other supplies. The crochet hook and the yarn needles and the scissors and everything is all linked there, so you can check that out. You can get this yarn, or you can get it at Michael's, a craft store. That's where I also got this yarn too, so you can check that out. So big thank you to Red Heart Yarns for providing this yarn today for this tutorial. Big thank you to my dad back here who is zooming in and out and getting close to the stitches so you guys can see everything. And big thank you to you for watching. I'm so glad you guys are here. Our subscribers number is reaching the sky. Big thank you to everybody who is subscribing to us on YouTube. Make sure, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can get the update on when my dad posts our next video. And also check out my Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all the other social medias. They're all linked in the description of this video. So let's get started and make this beautiful Autumn Nights cardigan. Alright, we're going to start off with our main color, and we are going to, actually I should show you a picture first. I'm not a very good artist, but I'm going to try to draw what you need to measure your piece out to be. So I'm just going to draw a little stick figure here. This is me, and the legs and the arms. Okay, so you see your shoulder would be like right above your arm here. So you want to measure from your kneecap up to your shoulder, and then down the back to your kneecap. Okay, does that make sense? I know, don't look at my ugly picture, I'm so sorry. So you want to measure, or you could just measure from your kneecap to your shoulder and then double that. And that is the measurement that your piece has to be. So your foundation row would have to be. Don't look at my picture anymore. We'll just make this piece. So I'm going to make foundation double crochets. So I'm going to take my short end and put it over my long end, making a slip knot. We're going to fold this down here and then pull the long end through and pull tight. Okay, so I am going to foundation double crochet 85. That's my measurement. My measurement is from my kneecap up over my shoulder. It is up to my shoulder is about 40 inches. Okay, so double that, it would be 80 inches. Okay, so 85 of these are going to be about 80 inches. Okay, so to do and if you want to, you can always just chain a long amount, see if it fits over you to your knees, from the front of your knee over your shoulder to the back of your knee. And if that measures out, you know, however long you need it to be, you can double crochet across your chain. But I'm going to do step 1 and step 2 all in one, making foundation double crochets. I just find it much easier. So we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and we're going to work into this third chain from the hook right here. And what we're going to do for the first foundation double crochet, we're going to yarn over and go into that third chain from the hook, and then yarn over and pull it through. Okay, kind of pull out. We're going to create the foundation chain here. Just yarn over and pull through 1 loop. So that creates the base of the stitch. And then finish off making a double crochet. So yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. And there is your first foundation double crochet. Now this right here, this chain up 2 stitch right here, is actually going to be considered a stitch. Okay, so that's going to also be considered our first stitch. So we actually have 2 stitches right now. So let's go on to make the next one. We are going to yarn over. Now we're going to go at the base of this stitch right here. So you can see this loop actually right here, this looks like a chain stitch, or actually it actually looks like a regular stitch right here. So we're gonna go into that space. So make sure you yarn over, go into that space right there, the base of that stitch, then yarn over and pull that through. Okay, kind of pull out just a little bit. Yarn over and just pull through one loop, because that creates the base of your stitch, and then yarn over and pull through two, and yarn over and pull through two. And there's your second foundation double crochet. So now these next stitches we're going to work into just repeating that last stitch. So this is the base of the stitch right here. So we're going to yarn over, go at the base of the stitch right here, then yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through one loop, then yarn over and pull through two loops, and yarn over and pull through two loops. And there's your next one. So now it looks like I have 4 stitches here. Okay, I need to make 85, so it's going to take me a little bit. So just measure however many you need, and see from your front of your knee up over your shoulder to the back of your knee. And that's how long yours needs to be. I'm going to do 85 of these stitches, and then I will meet you up and we'll go on to row 2 together. Alright, so I just have the 85 foundation double crochet stitches, so you can see here my long piece. So once you fold it in half, this is going to be the length of your piece. So this part is going to hit, if you can see my shoulder, you can see that this is going to hit the shoulder, and it's going to go down the back and then down the front. So that's how you have to measure your piece, however long you want it to be. And at this point for row 1, we're going to end this row. So I'm just going to chain 1 and cut this yarn, and then pull that through and pull it tight. Okay. Now for row 2, it says to, let's see here, turn your work around. So we're going to turn our work this way. So we're looking at the back of our stitches here. And we're going to insert our hook into this very first stitch right here. And we're going to grab a color. So I'm going to use this color Chianti. I think that's how you pronounce it. And we're just going to hook that on and pull it through. And then what I usually do is take my little straggler here and twist it around a couple of times before I chain my first chain. And we want to chain up 3. So 1, 2, and 3. And that's going to count as our first stitch of this row, so we don't have to work anything into this stitch because this chain up 3 is the stitch. Okay. Then what we're going to do is double crochet into each stitch across. So yarn over, go into this stitch right here, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. And that's it. That's all you do all the way across. So just double crochet in each stitch all the way across for this row. And we're working in both loops here, so front loop and back loop. Then yarn over and pull it through, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So you should still have the same amount of stitches as your first row. So I have 85 stitches, so I'm going to have 85 stitches at the end of row 2 as well. So I'm going to do that, and we're going to then change back to oatmeal, or this first color, after this row. So I'll meet you up at the end of row 2 and we'll go on to row 3 together. Alright, just finished row 2 there. So now I'm going to change color again. So just like I showed you the last row, how we changed color, I'm just going to chain 1 here and then cut this yarn and then pull that through. Okay, and then pull that tight. And after this row, we are going to turn our work around just like this and insert our hook into this very first stitch right here. Okay, and then we're going to grab our main color again and hook that on, pull it through. Okay, and just like I showed you earlier, I like to twist this around and then chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. Kind of pull that so it's secure. Okay, drop those stragglers in the back. And for this row, let's see here, row 3 with oatmeal, double crochet across. Okay, so basically just repeating that last row, just double crochet across. But after this row, we are not fastening off. We are going to do 2 rows of this oatmeal, but the next row we're going to be, instead of working in, for this row we're working in both loops. See this front loop, back loop? Okay, the next row is worked differently. So I'll show you that next, but just double crochet across for row 3. Okay, very similarly to the last row, but we're not fastening off after this row. So I'll show you what to do next. Alright, just finished row 3 here. So I just double crocheted across. So this is what it should look like. So now going on to row 4, we are going to chain up 3. So don't change color here, just chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn your work around. And for this row, row 4, we are going to work in the front loop only. Okay, so this first stitch we're not going to work in because this chain of 3 is worked in there. So we're going to hop to this next one here, and we're going to yarn over and go up into the front loop, which is this one right here. Okay, this loop is the front loop, and this loop, oops, this loop back here, sorry, is the back loop. Okay, so this is the front loop, this is the back loop. So we're just going to go through the front loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. We're just making double crochets. So I'll show you again, yarn over, go into just the front loop. Okay, so you can see we usually go through both loops here. The one that's closest to you is the front loop, and the one that's furthest away from you is the back loop. So we're just going to go up into this one, this front loop, and make our double crochets. Okay, so this is going to, in all the stitches across, be worked into just the front loop. And we're just double crocheting across. So I'll do that, and then after this row we are going to change color, so we'll fasten off and then change color and go on to row 5. At the end of row 4, don't forget this chain up 3 stitch here. Okay, you do have to work in the front loop of that one as well. So just go in there and make your last double crochet. And after this row, row 4, we are fastening this off. So let's chain 1 and then cut this yarn and pull that through and pull it tight. Okay. Now, instead of turning our work around, we're not going to turn our work, okay? Let's see here. Let me make sure my pattern is written correctly. Row 4 says, do not turn your work after this row. We're going to go to the beginning of this row, so do not turn your work. And we are going to go back to this chain up 3 stitch here, okay? And we're going to go into that stitch with our hook. And I'm going to use a new color called Apricot. So I'm going to hook that on and pull it through. And we are going to repeat row 2 here with the color. Okay, so we are going to hook that on, twist this around, and then chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to just double crochet, working in both loops now. Okay, so both front and back loop. We're going to double crochet. And we're just double crocheting in each stitch. So every row should have the same amount of stitches. You should always have, I'm always going to have 85 stitches. So whatever your measurement is, that's how many your stitches you should have. So I'm just going to double crochet across, and once we are done with this row, we are going to change color back to our main color. So I'll meet you up at that point. Alright, just finishing up this row here. Okay, so after row 5 here, we're going to chain 1 and cut this yarn and pull that through and pull tight. Now these next 2 rows are exactly like row 3 and 4 here. So we're going to turn our work around and insert our hook into the first stitch. Grab our main color, hook that through, and then twist that around, chain up 3, and then on this one, on this row is a repeat of this row 3 here. So we are going to double crochet across. Okay, now for the next row, let's see here, row 7 is going to be a repeat of row 4 here, where we worked in the front loops only. Now you can see that the rib, you can see the ribbing look, the line here, is because on this row right here we worked on row 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We worked in the front loop only, and if you look on the other side of it, you can see that line there. So that's why we worked in the front loop only, to be able to see that line. So that's what we're gonna do here, is just repeating those 2 rows. So repeat rows 3 and 4 at this point. So I'm gonna do that because I already showed you how to do it. If you need to rewind this to see how to do it, you can, but I'm going to just repeat rows 3 and 4. Okay, for rows 6 and 7. And for row 7, again, like I said, we're going to work in the front loops only. So those both rows are going to be this oatmeal color, the main color of our cardigan. And once I'm done with row 7, I'll come back on screen and we'll go on to row 8 together. When you finish row 7 here, we're just going to fasten this off because we are going to change color. So chain 1, cut that, and then pull it through, and then pull tight. Okay, and just like this colored row here and this colored row here, we are going to not turn our work around. We're actually just going to slide this over here. But this row we are going to only single crochet. So I did not turn my work, so you can see just like we did this row, we did not turn our work, we just slid it all the way over to the chain up 3 stitch right here. 1, 2, 3, right at the top. Insert your hook into there. And we are going to use this teal color. And I'm going to hook that on, and we're just going to chain up 1. So twist, twist, and chain up 1. Okay, and we're going to single crochet into that same stitch. So go back into that stitch, yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over and pull through both loops. And that's a single crochet. So we're just going to single crochet across this whole row. Okay, so go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, in the next, and just single crochet across. This is our last row, so just single crochet across, just like this. Once we finish this row, we will fasten off, and then we'll go on to the next step of making another one of these panels. Alright, when you're done with this single crochet row, we are just going to chain 1 and cut our yarn, and then pull that all the way through and pull tight. Okay, so now what I need you to do, actually I can show you how to sew in an end here. You want to sew in your ends as you go. So I'm just grabbing my yarn needle with that yarn and going behind my work here and just going underneath the stitches. Okay, and back and forth. You just want to go back and forth, so you could do it once or twice. So I'm just gonna come back through those same stitches and pull. Okay, and then you want to make sure to stretch it out so that it doesn't look all bunched up. Okay, and then cut any extra, and that's sewed in. Okay, so now what I need you to do is make another panel exactly like this one, so make sure that you have counted your rows here. Actually, this is the back side, so this is the front side. The side that has the lines right here and right here is the front side of your work, okay? So, and don't worry that this row kind of looks backwards, because actually we're going to be doing another row on here way later in this tutorial. So this is the front of your work, so make another one just like this, and actually have one here. Whoops, dropped my scissors. Okay, so there's one right here. exactly the same way. I had to sew in some ends, but that's fine. So now what we're going to do, once you have the two finished, we are going to turn this one opposite so that the two blue lines meet each other, okay? And fold it in half, okay, just like that. So, like this. And then what we're going to do is come to the very bottom here, and we are going to grab this teal yarn. Let me grab this teal yarn here, and our yarn needle. And you want to do it on the calculator or in your head math to however many stitches you have, cut it in half. So I have 85 stitches, so evenly in half, 84 stitches would be 42 stitches, but since I have an odd number, I'm going to add one more in there. So I'm going to do 43 stitches. Okay, so I'm going to sew up 43 stitches on this side and 43 stitches on this side evenly. So match these up, the stitches. Let me get, I know it's like shadowed here, let me get in the light. There we go. So I'm going to do the mattress stitch. You can do a whip stitch or a mattress stitch, okay? And actually we want to sew it inside out. So I'm actually going to flip this over. So you can see these lines right here, right here, right here, and right here. This is the outside, okay? You want to sew it, always sew your pieces inside out, okay? So that you don't see that. So I'm going to flip this to the inside. I'll actually sew these two pieces together. So I'm going to open this up right here. Okay, it doesn't matter because it's the same way both sides. So I'm going to sew this inside out. So first stitch and first stitch right here. Okay, we want to line those up. Grab our yarn. Now the mattress stitch goes in from this side inward to the outside. Okay, let me get a lot of yarn on this piece here. There we go. And then back through it from the inside out. Okay, now you can do the whip stitch if you want to look up how to do the whip stitch, or you can slip stitch this together or single crochet it together. There are so many different ways to attach your pieces. Okay, so I'm just gonna mattress stitch this. Okay, so next stitch is right here, so we're gonna go from the inside out and just keep pulling. And then second stitch here, inside out, and then just keep pulling, and next stitch inside out. So this is considered the mattress stitch. So I'm just going to do that, and then you want to pull tight to make sure everything is secured and lined up and together. Okay, so just make sure you count your stitches up to the halfway point. So in my case, I'm going to do 43 stitches up the back. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4 so far. And you can see here, 1, 2, 3. So now I have to do the fourth one on this side here. So I will end on this side so that we have an even number of sewn stitches on both sides. Okay, so both sides will be equal. Okay, so I'm going to do 43 stitches up this back, and this is inside out, and you get the point. So now I'll just do that, and then once I get all the way up to the top, we will meet you back up, and we'll fasten this off at the bottom and at the top. So I'll sew this all up to about here, and once that's all sewn up, then we'll be able to sew up the sides. And then once the sides are all sewn up, we'll be able to crochet the sleeves. What? Look at you. She's looking at herself in the screen. What is that? Okay. You're not supposed to be in the studio. Come on. Alright, when you sew up to the halfway point, we are going to tie this off in a knot. So I'm going to go around now from the outside, around, kind of like how you do a whip stitch. But I'm going to keep my finger in this loop, okay? And then I'm going to come back around through that loop and then pull tight. And that creates a knot, just like that. And then I'm going to actually have to turn this around here real quick so I can sew this end in. So we're just going to sew underneath these stitches down the back, and we're hiding this end. Okay, if you wanted to, you could do 1 or 2 knots. I just did the 1 because it's pretty secure. And we're going to crochet around it anyway later on. So, okay, so once you have this sewn in, stretch it out, grab your scissors. I actually dropped mine earlier. There we go. Ooh. Okay, we're going to cut that yarn, and then we're going to go to the bottom here because this is actually still attached to the ball of yarn right here. So we're just going to cut this, take this little strand and get it on our yarn needle. Okay, go through the stitch here, make sure they're lined up. Okay, everything looks good, and we're going to tie this in a knot. So again, pull this through, keep your finger in the loop, come back through the loop, and pull. And that secures that. And I pulled this off my needle here, so I have to put it back on the needle to sew in this end. So I'm just going to go underneath these stitches just like I did at the top. And that's all sewn in. And I also have a few stitches to sew in on this piece as well. So now what we're going to do, let me read my instructions here. It says for the sides, we're going to put this down. Okay, so we're going to sew up this side here and this side here. Make sure they're even. Okay, just like that. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to show you one side and the other side is exactly the same. So what we're going to do is skip 6 stitches from the bottom. Okay, we're going to grab some oatmeal yarn. We grab some oatmeal. Okay, yarn our needle. And we're going to sew this inside out. But I'm going to show you right side out first here. So 6 stitches here. So this is the first stitch. And this is the first stitch. Okay, so 1, line them up. Here's 2, 3, here's 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so we're going to work into these next ones right here. Okay, so let me stick my hook in those. And then I'm going to switch this to the other side. Okay, you can mark them or hold on to them. Okay, so it's these 2 stitches here. Okay, so we're inside out. You always want to sew inside out. So skip 6 stitches, 6 stitches here. And then we're just going to sew up, let's see, how many stitches? Sew up from the bottom until 21 stitches remain. Okay, so I'm going to sew it up through here. Let me turn this inside out. Okay, so from here up to here until 21 stitches remain. Or however many you need, I guess. It doesn't really have to be 21 stitches, but for however much you need for your arm to fully fit in there. okay? So, and I'm going to do the mattress stitch just like I did before, so going from the inside, so there's one, okay, from the inside to the inside. Okay, and this part you can actually whip stitch as well, or slip stitch, or crochet together, or whatever, but I'm just going to do the mattress stitch all the way up until, like all the way up here until about right here. This is when there's 21 stitches left, so I'm going to count. I don't know how many there are right now, but about right here, and there should be 21 stitches around, and that should fit all the way your upper arm up here, okay? So make sure that you can stick your arm in there and be sure that it does fit completely around, so you can do more or less stitches if you need to, just to fit around you. So I'm going to do that, and once I have this all sewn up, I will come back and we'll go on to the next step together. Alright, so I just sewed this up. I have 21 stitches left here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay, so I sewed them all up. I have 21 stitches. My arm fits through this hole. So now what we're going to do is, like I showed you before when we closed up the back, we're just going to go around, hold our finger in the loop, come back through the loop, and then pull. And that ties it off into a knot. And then we're just going to sew this end in. And then we're going to do the same exact thing to the bottom side, okay, because we had to sew that, or that's attached to the ball of yarn. And just sew in that end. And then we have to do the same exact thing to the opposite side of our cardigan. So I'll show you that. I did all of that off camera here, so we can just go on to the next step. So make sure you do that. If you need to pause this, then you can do that to catch up to me. So then I fastened that off and sewed in that end. Now down here, fastened that off and sewed in that end. Okay, then we can flip it back right side out. And as you can see, I did this side off camera here. So sewed that up exactly like this side, tied it off up there, tied it off down there, make sure there's 21 stitches left over here so my arm fits in there. So this is, it's kind of like a vest right now. I mean, you could fasten off and, you know, sew in all your ends and have a nice vest, a little chunky vest. It's kind of cute. But I want to add some sleeves. So I'm going to fold this up and set this aside and grab my main color and my crochet hook, and we are going to make the sleeves. So let me grab my, let's see here, pattern. Okay, sleeves. Make 2 of these with oatmeal. Start off with a slip knot. I showed you how to do that earlier. And we are going to foundation double crochet 18. Now I'm going to show you my arm in this little segment here. You want to back up there. So your sleeve is going to be where the end of your shoulder is, so right about here, okay, because this is where the panel is going to end. So right here, and you want to measure up until, I guess, where this sleeve is, right before the wrist, okay, because we are going to make a cuff on this later on. So you want to measure from here to about right here, and for me that's 15 inches. So that's how long my foundation row is going to be, 15 inches long. Okay, so that is 18 foundation double crochets. So start off by chaining 3, but you can make yours more or less depending on how long your arms are. Okay, just like we started in the beginning, I'm going to yarn over and go into the 3rd chain, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and there's our first foundation double crochet stitch. But actually this is going to count as 1, so it looks like I have 2 stitches right now, 1 and 2. So this is going to be pretty quick because I only have to make 18 of these instead of 85 like the other one. If you need to rewind this to see how I did the foundation double crochet, you can rewind this to the beginning. Otherwise, just foundation double crochet however many you need. I'm going to do 18 stitches, and once I finish that, we will meet back up in the video and we'll go on to row 2 of the sleeve. Alright, I just did 18 foundation double crochet stitches. So if you don't want to do foundation double crochets, you can chain and then chain an amount that will measure your arm length and then double crochet across your chain, and this should be your row 1. So going on to row 2, we're going to chain up 3. You do not have to change color yet. So chain up 3, turn your work around. Now this chain up 3 counts as a stitch, so we are not working in this first stitch here. We're going to work in this next stitch here, and we're going to work in the back loops only. So like I showed you earlier, we were working in the front loops. This is the front loop, okay, this is the front loop. This is the front loop. The loop that's furthest away from you is the back loop. So to do that, we are going to yarn over, go into this second stitch right here, because this first stitch has this chain up 3 in it. Go into the back loop, yarn over, and pull that through, then yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. So we're just going to double crochet across in the back loop only. Now at the end of this row, row 2, we are going to change color, so I'll show you that next. Alright, and don't forget this last stitch is this chain up 3 stitch, so make sure every row has the same amount of stitches, and if you need to count back, you can do that. So that should be row 2, so you can see this rib look with the working in the back loop. It creates this line here, which I like. So now we're going to fasten this color off, so chain 1, grab your scissors, pull that through, pull it tight, okay? We're going to turn our work around, so we're looking at the back side here. We're going to insert our hook into this beginning stitch, this first stitch right here, and we are going to grab this burgundy color, Chianti, and we're going to pull that through, twist it around, and chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And that counts as our first stitch. Now this next stitch right here, we're working in both loops now, and we are going to just double crochet across. Okay, very simple row. So we're just going to double crochet working in both loops all the way across. At the end of this row, I am going to change color back to my main color, so I will show you that next. Alright, just finishing row 3 here. We're going to fasten this off, so chain 1, cut your yarn, pull it through, and pull tight. We're going to turn our work around, so we're looking at the front again, and we are going to go into this first stitch here, and hook on our main color, and twist this around, and chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. Pull on that. There we go. Awesome. Now this is considered worked into this first stitch, so we are going to work into the next stitch and basically just repeat that last row. Just double crochet in each stitch across, working in both loops. You can see front and back loop here. Okay, so both loops, double crochet across. And at the end of this row, we're not changing color, so I'll show you what to do next. Alright, at the end of this row, your piece should look like this. So now this is the front, as you can see this line here, okay? So now this next row, we're looking at the back of our work. We're going to turn this around, and we're going to chain up 3 with the same color. We're not changing color yet. Okay, so I'm going to chain up 3, and that's worked into this first stitch here. Now this next stitch and each stitch after, we're going to work in the front loops only. Okay, front loops are the ones that are closest to you, and these loops that are furthest away from you are the back loops. Okay, so we're going to work in the front loops only, not this first one here, because this chain up 3 is worked in there. So go into the front loop here, we're going to double crochet across. Okay, we worked into the front loop on the panels when we were working on the front and back panels there, or on each side panel, I guess. We worked in the front loops, just like this. Okay, so go into the front loops, and that will create that line in the front because this line is in the front on this one here. Just to show you that. So I'm going to double crochet across here. At the end of this row, we will change color. Right after row 5 here, we are going to fasten off. So I chained 1, cut this yarn, and pulling that through, pulling tight. Now we're not going to turn our work, okay? So we're going to go back to the beginning here, right to this chain up 3 stitch. So do not turn your work. Go to the chain up 3 stitch right here and insert your hook under both of those loops. And we're going to pick up the apricot yarn and pull that through, and then twist that around, and then chain up 3. Okay, that's your first stitch, and we are repeating row 3 here. So with the color, we are just going to double crochet across. Very simple. So I'm just going to do that, work in both loops across here, and once I've finished with this row, we can go on to the next row together. Alright, when you're finished with row 6 here, let's chain 1 and cut that yarn, pull it through and pull tight. We're going to change color back to the main color so we can turn our work around. So we're looking at the front because you can see these lines here and here. So what we're going to do is insert our hook into the beginning right here. And for rows 7 and 8, we are repeating these 2 rows here. This is row 4 and row 5. We're repeating those 2. So if you need to rewind this to see what I did, especially because we worked in the front loop only for row 5 there, we're repeating that for row 7 and 8. So we're going to, in row 7, we're working through both loops. But then in row 8, when you turn your work around, we're going to be working in the front loops only. So like I said, just repeat rows 4 and 5 exactly. And once I finish row 8, we'll come back and we'll do our last row, row 9, together. Alright, going on to row 9, I'm going to chain 1 and cut this yarn, and we're going to pull that through, pull it tight. We're going to change color and repeat row 6. So do not churn your work. We're going to come back to the beginning here to this chain up 3, and we're going to insert our hook into this right here. Okay, so row 9 is our last row here, and it's a repeat of row 6, this colored row here. So what we're going to do is, this will be our last row for this, but if you need to make this bigger, wrap this around your arm, okay, especially way up here. Wrap this around your arm and make sure that it does close completely. And if it does not, especially up on the larger part of your arm, if it doesn't, just repeat rows 6 through 9. So 6, 7, 8, and then 9 obviously is another one of row 6. So just repeat however many times you need to. So after this next colored row, I'm adding, what color am I adding here? Teal. So we're going to hook this on and chain up 3. So this is a repeat of row 6. So actually repeat rows 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so if you need to make this bigger to fit around your arm, just then after this color, after this row 9, then go back to row 7, double crochet, and then see if it fits around your arm. At that point you can fasten off. Otherwise, do another one of these rows and do another colored row, etc., 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 etc. Just keep adding rows however you need to, but always keep in mind, you know, if you need to work in the front loop or if you need to work in both loops, or which color row it is, and which way to turn, if you need to turn your work or not turn your work, just repeat those rows. Rows 6, 7, and 8. So I'm doing a repeat of row 6 right here, just double crocheting across. So I'm going to do that, and once I'm ready to fasten this off, I'll show you what to do next. Alright, when you're going to fasten off, chain 1, but we're going to actually cut our yarn quite long because we are going to use that for sewing. So I cut my yarn really long, and then I'm just going to pull that through that chain 1. And that fastens that off and allows me to have a long strand for sewing. So what we're going to do now, so you can see this is the back of our work and this is the front of our work, because you can see those lines. So we're actually going to make sure we're looking at the front, and we're going to fold this down just like this. So now we're looking at the back, and this is the back. We're going to seam up this edge right here. Okay, so we're going to take that loose end that we just cut, grab our yarn needle. Okay, yarn our needle. Okay, and we're going to match up our stitches, and I'm going to do the mattress stitch just like I seamed up the back and the sides. Okay, so we're going to go in from the inside out, and we're just going to seam this up all the way. So inside out. Okay, inside, next stitch, out, and inside, out. Okay, so just do that all the way across this whole piece, and once we get to that other side, we will be able to fasten this off and then go on to making the cuff. Alright, when you're ready to fasten this off, I just sewed up across here. You can see these lines right here. Okay, so I'm just going to go around a couple stitches, go back through that loop, and then pull it tight, just like I showed you earlier on how to sew things together. We're just sewing this seam closed, and then you can see here I am just sewing in this loose end just to hide it behind the stitches. Stretch it out, cut extra, and now we're going to flip this right side out. Okay, just like this. Looks really good. So this is the outside. This will be the underside where you sewed this closed right here. This will be the under of the arm. Oh, look at that. It fits my arm. Okay, so now we're just going to make the cuff here. Let me grab some oatmeal color. Okay, and like I said, this is going to be the underside, so that's where you kind of want to start your cuff. So basically wherever your hook fits is where you should insert it and pull this through. And we are going to evenly around this piece single crochet, so chain up 1 and then go back in, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's a single crochet. So basically wherever your hook fits is where you should single crochet. And we are going to evenly put single crochets around this cuff, 18 stitches. Okay, so make sure you have 18 stitches around, just like this, wherever your hook fits, single crochet. And just make sure that it evenly fits around 18 stitches. So I'm going to do that. Once I have my 18 stitches around this cuff, we'll go on to the second round. I'm going to change color, but it's not going to be fastened off. I'll show you what I mean next. Alright, so once you have 18 stitches around evenly, just like this, you can go into the first single crochet right here, go into there, and we are going to change color, but we're not going to fasten this one off. We are going to be working in rounds now to make the cuff. So I'm going to leave this one behind here. I'm going to pull it tight, but we are going to pick this up on the third round, so don't cut this yarn. We're going to grab our teal color, or whatever color you want on the cuff as a stripe, pull that through and pull it through that loop on your hook. Okay, and then pull everything tight, and then chain up 1 with your new color. And now we are going to decrease because we want this to kind of hug our hand a little bit tighter. So what we're going to do is single crochet 2 together. So go into this very first stitch that we just slip stitched into, go in there, yarn over and pull through, then go right into the next stitch right here, and then yarn over and pull that through, So now we have 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops, and that is a single crochet 2 together stitch. Now we're just going to single crochet into the next stitch, just a regular single crochet. And we're going to repeat this sequence all the way around. So single crochet 2 together, just like that, and then single crochet into the next stitch, just a regular single crochet. Okay, and then single crochet 2 together, and then single crochet into the next stitch. Single crochet 2 together, and single crochet in the next. And at the end of this round, you should have 12 stitches around. And I just have a couple more stitches to go, so you can just continue watching because we are going to change color back to Oatmeal, or our main color. Okay, make sure you single crochet in the last stitch, just like that. Now we're gonna, okay, so ignore, this is our slip stitch from last row. This is our chain 1 stitch. So go into the actual single crochet stitch right here, go into there, okay? Pull all your yarn colors here. Grab the Oatmeal yarn, drop the Teal yarn, or the other color. Grab your yarn from before, just trail it up, and pull it through and through, and then pull everything tight, just like that. So now we have the Oatmeal back, and we're going to chain up 1, and now for this round, round 3, we're just going to simply single crochet in each stitch around for the same amount of stitches, which is 12 stitches around. So nothing, no decreasing or anything around this round. So I'm going to do that, and I'll meet you up for round 4. Alright, so for the next round, we're going to go into this very first stitch here. If you need to count back 12, do that and go into this stitch right here. And then we're going to drop this main color, our Oatmeal color, and grab the Teal in the back here, because we didn't cut it. We're going to grab that and pull it through and through. Okay, just like that. And then we're going to chain up 1 and repeat that last row. So single crochet in the stitch that we slip stitched into, and in each stitch around. And again, you should have 12 stitches. So I'm going to do that for this round, and then, so this is round, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is round 4. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to switch colors for round 5, switch back to Teal for round 6, and then switch back to Oatmeal for round 7. And you want to do 7 total rounds for the cuff. If you want your cuff longer, you obviously can do more rounds. Just alternate your colors for each row. But if you want to do the same as me, I'm doing 7 rounds total, and I'm alternating the colors each row. So as you can see now, I'm at the end of this row. It'll go by really quick because there's only 12 stitches on each row. So then back to the beginning here, okay, going on to the next row. This was row 4 here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I'm going to go into the first stitch here, going on to row 5, yarning over with Oatmeal, pulling that through and through, pulling everything tight, chain up 1, and single crochet around. So now I'm on row 5. So now I have to do row 6 and 7. We're going to end this cuff on the main color, which is Oatmeal. So once I'm ready to fasten this off, I will meet you on the screen here, and then we'll go on to the next step together. Alright, so I finished row 7 here. So we did rounds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And now instead of changing color here, we're going to actually just yarn over with our same color. So I'm going into the first stitch to slip stitch, grab the same color, pull it through and through. To fasten off, I'm going to chain 1 and then cut both colors here. We can cut both colors now. And pull that through that chain 1 there, pull it tight. Then you can flip this inside out here so you can see this strand. And we're going to yarn our needle with that strand, and we're going to sew in this one underneath these stitches here. And then we're going to sew in that other one also underneath the stitches, just like this. Okay, and you can do that yourself. I'll go on to the next step and I'll sew that in off camera after. So just sew that in, stretch them out. So I'll sew this in off camera next. So what we need to do now is make another sleeve exactly like this one, so that you have two sleeves, identical sleeves, just like this. Okay, and then we're going to grab our vest, or right now it's a vest, but we're going to make it into a cardigan. So let me grab this. Okay, looking at it from the front, this is the front opening. We are going to attach the sleeves, but to attach them, they have to be equal on both sides. So as you can see, here is our seam from when we sewed this up. Okay, you can see our seam on this one is right here. Okay, so we're going to have the seam be the armpit area. So down below here. And what we're going to do is put this one on this side. Armpit area has the seam right here down below. Okay, but we have to sew it inside out. So what I'm going to do is grab this, kind of flip this inside out just like this, and I'm going to sew it together just like this. Okay, and we're going to just whip stitch it. We're going to grab our oatmeal yarn. Gotta grab my yarn needle. There it is. Okay, yarn needle and oatmeal yarn, or your main color, I guess, oatmeal. And we're just going to whip stitch this now. We're not going to do any mattress stitching or anything. So grab your seam and go in through here. And a whip stitch is always going through the same side. So now I'm always going to go through this side here into this piece here. And then pull. Okay, so always go through this side into this piece. And it's basically wherever my hook or my needle fits on this piece is where I'm going to sew, because there's no stitches on the sleeve, but there's stitches on this cardigan piece. So I'm going to go through the stitches on this piece, but then just wherever my needle fits on this piece, basically, and just make sure it's even all the way around like this. Okay, so I'm just going to sew all the way around, and then I'll fasten off. I know you know how to fasten off now, so I'm just going to fasten off on my own. Just sew in your ends as you go, and once I have my sleeves attached, we have one step left after that, and I'll show you that next. Alright, once you have that all sewn together and your ends are all fastened in and you tied off your knots, you can flip it right side out and see that the sleeve is attached. So do that to both sides, so you have both sleeves attached. So I have this one already attached as well. Just make sure that this blue line where the seam is underneath the armpit. Okay, so on both of them it's equal. Okay. So that's what that should look like. So now I have my oatmeal yarn. I just want to do one more step, and that is to crochet from this corner right here up and around the neck down to this corner right here. So just 3 rows of that, and they're all single crochet rows, and I'm going to start off with oatmeal. So we're going to just attach our yarn to this bottom corner right here into this stitch. Hook on our yarn, twist it a few times, and then chain up 1, and we're going to single crochet. So you know how to do single crochets. I'm just going to go into each stitch across here until I'm just going to go all the way up, 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 and when you get to the back of the neck, you can go into this stitch and this stitch here. So this is sewed together, but just go into these stitches so it's straight across, and then all the way down this side to this corner. And then once we're at this corner, I will come back on screen and we will go on to the next step. Alright, just did my last stitch here. I'm going to grab my scissors. I don't know where my scissors went. Oh, they dropped. There they are. Thanks, Dad. Okay, so we're gonna cut our yarn. Sorry about that. I never chained one, so I'm gonna chain one and pull that through, and then pull that tight, and I'll sew that in a minute. I'm gonna go back to the beginning here. Okay, so we're gonna just turn this around. So no turning our work. We're just turning this around here, just like this, and going back to the beginning. And these next two rows are exactly like that other one. Okay, so we're just going to, but I'm going to change color here. So this next row of the outer edge, the second row, is this teal color, and then the third row will be the oatmeal color, so our main color again. So just attach the first stitch and then single crochet all the way across, all the way around, and here I'll show you the back of the neck too, so you can see where we seamed this. There we go. So you can see that I single crocheted in those two stitches that were sewn together, but just to keep it straight across, I didn't skip those two stitches. Okay, so I just single crocheted into those, and I just single crocheted all the way across there. So then I'm just going to do that for this second row and the third row, and then once I have everything all done and ready, finished, we'll sew in some ends and we'll be done with our project. Alright, so I just did the third row here, ended in oatmeal. If you want to do more, you obviously can, but I just chained one. I'm cutting this here, pulling that through, pulling it tight, and I just need to sew in some ends, and this cardigan is finished. Big thank you to Red Heart Yarns for this yarn. Big thank you to my dad for filming and editing. Big thank you to you for watching. I want to just show you how beautiful it looks. I'm just going to sew in this end real quick. This is so awesome! I literally finished this in one day. Like, I was working on this just today. I didn't even do anything the day before or anything. I finished this in one day, so you could totally do it too. How awesome! It's beautiful! Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Make sure if you make this, be sure to share it on Facebook, on Instagram, hashtag YARNutopia. Tag me in your photos. I want to see them. This is beautiful. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to wear this. It is going to be so nice and warm in the winter. This is so awesome. And this will be great for gifts too. I hope this helped and you were able to make this and make different sizes. If you want to ask any questions, please message me on Facebook or comment to this post here. So thanks so much for watching, everyone. Happy hooking!